All right, thanks very much, Molly. So hodgepodge guidelines, a good way to put it, and it gets very confusing as well. Meantime, south of the border, the crisis is continuing to worsen. America's top infectious disease expert made an alarming prediction about how bad the situation could get. Dr. Anthony Fauci testifying to Congress again today, saying he expects cases to more than double. Listen to this.
We can't just focus on those areas that are having the surge. It puts the entire country at risk. We are now having 40,000+ new cases a day. I would not be surprised if we go up to 100,000 a day if this does not turn around, and so I am very concerned.
For more, Eric Feigl-Ding is my guest, a senior fellow with the Federation of American Scientists. He's in Washington today. Eric, good to see you again.
Thanks. Happy to be back.
What did you make of what Dr. Fauci has said there, a doubling of the numbers?
I think it's definitely feasible. The U.S. is on a trajectory that is faster rise than almost any other country. And 100,000 cases per day is well within the realm of possibility in the coming weeks and months, especially if we basically avoid all the lockdowns. Because there's 33 states with double-digit increases in cases since last week, but only less than half of them have even paused their reopening. So we are definitely on an upward trajectory.
Yeah, you mentioned those states. Let's show the map so our viewers across Canada can get a sense of just how many states we're talking about here in red, where cases are on the rise. And it really paints a portrait, a disturbing one of the trajectory here. And even in places, Eric, like New York, where they seem to have beaten, the worst of it, they're now starting to say maybe we should not reopen restaurants as planned next week because, people can come from other states, they can bring it in.
Yeah.
So you could even see a rollback in places that seem to have flattened the curve.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the U.S. is a very porous country. We don't have borders. Like Europe, Italy can close their borders. New York cannot. And that's why New York actually expanded their list of quarantine. If you come from one of these hotspot quarantine states, basically you have to be isolated for 14 days. And reopening restaurants is really dangerous, especially in anything indoors, bars, restaurants, because we know those are hot spots for super spreading.
What about the July 4th weekend that's coming up?
Yeah, that's coming up this weekend in the U.S. and holidays and barbecues and picnics. I hope any celebrations will be kept outdoors only because we know indoor celebrations are just the absolute worst. And we're seeing cases rise, and we also expect mortality to rise in 4 to 5 weeks because of the known lag of mortality. So everything is looking worse and worse, and we need more than half the states that are having these increases to slow down, pause their reopenings.
We're going to show a list as well of the European Union's so-called safe list of countries that they will allow to come into Europe. And that does include our own, Eric, Canada, but does not include your country, the United States. What do you make of that?
It is definitely a slap in the face because U.S. should have been more prepared, especially for the second peak. There's no excuse for the second peak that we are experiencing. It is just a lack of utter leadership, anywhere from politicizing things like wearing masks, which we should not even be arguing about, to building PPEs for everyone. But none of that has happened over the last few months. So it's an utter slap in the face to America, and it is more an indictment of our leadership.
How real is so-called virus fatigue as well? I mean, I think this happens in every country, but in your country perhaps more so because it's now become kind of politicized to a certain extent. Just, people are tired of this. It's been 4 months and they've had enough, and they're frustrated, they're exhausted, they're irritated, and they're angry.
Yeah, I think this virus fatigue is getting really serious because there's a distancing fatigue here where, especially with kids, by the time fall comes, if we cannot get this virus under control, we won't be able to open schools, and that will be even worse. It's not just killing our elderly, but actually harming the development of our children if we do not get them back in school. But at the same time, this fatigue is just utterly devastating. And there's actually an incoming wave of evictions because all the halt orders against evictions are going to expire in July 1st. And it will be really bad for so many Americans.
Eric, we appreciate you taking the time for us here in Canada so we can tap into your expertise and give us your read on the situation in the U.S. and the situation elsewhere as well.
Best of luck.
Eric